Good morning, Rabbi Isai. All-time record. No one ever has given 3 shiurim, 3 daf Gemara in one airport sitting in Newark ever. In the history since Moshe Rabbeinu till today, there might have been a Daf Yomi share in this airport, which I'm not aware of, but 3, never. This is number 3. Rabbi Isai was Mem Hey in English, Mem Vav in Hebrew, and now Mem Vav in English, waiting for my flight. This is the first time. Well, it's not the first time. You know how people say, now that I wait in line to the bank and for the this and that, I want to wait in line. I don't want the line to be over because I'm in the middle of doing chazara. Now we're davening that the plane should be delayed another few minutes, so we can chop right another shir. Imagine if I give 3 shiurim now, I could be ahead. Now I could travel to Utah with a clear mind. Rabbi Isai, it's a nace, HaKadosh Baruch Hu delayed the flight by another half hour, so we can chop right another shir. Zokt the Heilige Gemara. So first of all, I want to say a tremendous yishkoyach to Avi Charlap, who put together a beautiful. This is the outside of the tent. It has the picture of Yeshivas Chacham Lublin, and you can see the screen on the side. Some of the guys from the shir went. They're live, and now just to show you, they were watching the shir. So although I wasn't there physically, but in spirit, the shir was playing over there, and we weren't zeichet to be in a tent, but we were outside between the tents, it looks like. And again, I'm asking Mechila from Rabbi Avi Charlap. Things happened, and I had to make my flight a little earlier, so I apologize. The Masechet is sponsored by David Salmon, dedicated in memory of Avi Mori Reb Shmuel Baruch ben Reb Chaim Tzvi Doiv. Masechet is sponsored anonymously. Nishmas Doidi Shlomi Yehuda Zochron Levorah Ben Shmuel Chaim Zochron Levorah Sheshoka V'Lom Kodshim Kol Chaim anonymous L'Schus V'Fur Shneima Nochem Tzvi Ben Yenta. Sponsored by Skybrook Capital in honor of our friends Meir Kovacs Taki and Shamshi Shlafrak for the devotion to the Torah study and the shir. Joel Gedalius, Lili Nishmas, my father Jack Gedalius. Thank you, Joel Gedalius, big tzaddik. Anonymous, Hatzlocha Beruchnius U Begashmis. Monthly sponsors, Anonymous from London, Parnasa B'Sheva, Anonymous Baruch Adon Yudai, Baruch Tzinisim Ben Shoshana Leo, Yehuda Ben Yomi Ben Chava. MDYR, monthly, Yonatan Edom Ben B'Sheva Bracha, for Shleima. For Shleima, Mordechai Ben Esther. For Sayela, Daniel Zeb Ben Ayelet Esther. Boy, we're going to try to do this entire daf in 30 minutes. Put your thinking caps on, slow down the speed, and let's go. Daf Mem Vav Amud Aleph. So we learned in the Mishnah that there are certain things that you cannot do pigel to. Those are things that don't have a matter. They are the last stop. For instance, the kmitza or the blood. Yet the Mishnah says those things that do not have pigel, they still have noisar and tuma. You can still be over to Yisur besides dam. Blood doesn't have noisar and tuma. Says the Gemara, 2 lines from the top of Mem Vav Amud Aleph. And I'm just saying, this room, amazing room, with a printer, only in America could you print your copies and do all the stuff for free. It doesn't even cost, you can use their color copy machine for free. Chutz min adam, how do you know that when it comes to the dam, there is noisar and tuma? When it comes to the dam, the Torah says, this is the pasuk by dam. I gave it to you. The blood is yours. In other words, you're not taking away from me when you use the blood. It's yours. No meila. What's meila? When I use something from the Beis Hamikdash, it's usher, and I have to pay the Beis Hamikdash back. I have to give more, to give it back, plus add 25%, plus bring a carbon. Blood is yours. There's no isser. The Beir Shmuel Tana Omakro Lechaper. So now it's within the same pasuk. I have a different way to learn it. And the Gemara is going to say, why do I need all these drushes? Here, the word lechaper. The what? Lekapar nesativ lo lemiila. I gave you the blood so that you have a kapara, and not that you be over the isra meila. Rabbi Yochanan Omakro. Who? Here we go. All the way in the bottom. Who means the way it is. Who lifnei kapara k'lach kapara. So the Gemara does an interesting thing here. The status after the kapara is known. That what? Once there's a kapara, there's no mila. So we're going to take that status and bring it to the beginning. The beginning is also going to have no mila. The Gemara is going to ask maybe the opposite. Who should say it remains the same? That the beginning status, which does have mila, will go to the end status, and the end status will have an issa mila. Who told you to start from the end and go to the front, go to the beginning and go to the end? The good news is that we have an easier dafim, and that's why we're able to give more shiurim now and prepare a little quicker than usual. Shkoyach Hashem. Ask the Gemara, lach kapara kilifnei kapara. Maybe start from the beginning and then work your way to the end, not vice versa. Just like there's an isser to use most things before you do a kapara, so with blood also, there will be isser to use the blood to be mild to benefit from it. You'd have to pay the base makdash before the kapara, so certain, and also after the kapara. Says Gemara, no, that doesn't make sense. There's no thing we can't think of anything in the entire Torah that once you're done performing the mitzvah that's also to use. Anything in the Beis Hamikdash, once the mitzvah is done, if you use it, you're not over. What if I could find something like that? So, well, it depends. If I find one thing in the entire Torah, then I'll learn from there to the rest of the Torah that what? It's also to use. But if it's two things, then the Torah is saying only these two things have an Isser and nothing else. Every morning, the first avodah was to go up with a shovel, grab some coals and bring it down into a special place next to the Mizbeach, and it would be absorbed in the ground. What if and once it was done, you went and you grabbed a coal, also. Even though the mitzvah was done, it's also. Take a look. Beautiful video. This is from our artist. We have one designated artist that works only on the Beis Hamikdash day and night. For the future also, but now when things come up like this, that's his job, to figure out the Mizbeach and all the Kalim. We want to have it perfect. Glowing coals. And look at it get absorbed in the ground. Boom. The nace every day. You usually won't see me drinking this garbage, but because it's the middle of the night for me, and I want to stay awake, and I was feeling a little tired, so I had to chop one of these. Bari Trumas Hadeshen says Gemara Mishum Dahav Trumas Hadeshen Ubigdi Kuhuno Shnei Ksuvim Aboim Ke'echad. Once we have two things that the Torah tells us that once the mitzvah is done, it's also to use, it's only those two things. Otherwise, the Torah should have said it by one, and I would have known to the rest of the Torah. But only these two things, it's also. Everything else you're allowed to use once the mitzvah is done. What's the big dikuna? So the Kohen Gadol, on Yom Kippur, when he used to wear white clothing for certain avodas. Once he's done, he folded up, put in the gniza inside the Beis Hamikdash. I'll show you a little bit of a video. It's not so accurate because they show the gniza inside the Beis Hamikdash, but you get the idea. Here he is, done doing the avodah with his white clothing, beautiful, doing the zrikas in front of the paroichas. Takes his Kohen Gadol clothing, and he puts it into the gniza. Comes the plagiarizing Kohen Gadol, the pretender. Simcha G'dayla yet. Try to listen later.
שלום, הגעתם למשרד של הכהן הגדול. שלום, אשמח לקבל ברכה מהכהן הגדול.
Oh, here it looks in the
ברכה
internet.
1,500 שקל, קמיה
Even here in the back is in the
$2,600.
English.
כבר אעביר לך את הכהן הגדול, אבל קודם, איך אתה משלם?
Okay, I wasn't zeichet to hear you what he says, but I'm sure it's funny. Zog the Gemara, Hanich the Rabban Damri, Vinicham Shamalam Shetunim Gniza. There's a machlokes whether or not another kohen can use it. Rabban say another kohen can't use it. Eller Doisidam Mutar is saying that another kohen could use his clothing for added Gniza. Mutar is in the kohen idea, but there's one stipulation: this other kohen should not use it for another Yom Kippur. Michael and Meimar. Now we're back down to one place. Only Trumas Hadeshin you can't use after the Avodah. Mamela, you're going to learn to the whole Torah. You don't have two Ksuvim Abarim Kechel. You only have one. When you have two Ksuvim, you can't learn it anywhere else. One you could you learn to the rest of the Torah. Says Gemara, Mishum have a Trumas Hadeshin ve'egla rufa shnei Ksuvim Abarim Kechel. We do have a second place. Now we're going to introduce to you Egla Rufa. Egla Rufa is when we find a dead person, a body between two cities, and the skin they measure who's closer, and then they have to bring a calf and bring it into the Nachalei Son, and they chop off its head and they say all these psukim. You're not allowed to benefit from that calf afterwards, even after the mitzvah is over. So we have Trumas Hadeshin and Egla Rufa, that's two. Shnei Ksuvim Abam Gechad, Shnei Ksuvim Abam Gechad, Ein Melamdim. So we always have this. I'm going to guess 10 times, 15 times in Shas. That's good according to the Mandam. It says a Milamdin, but what about Rabbi Yehuda that says Milamdin? You could learn now. What do you do? So a lot of times the Gemara has well, there's a third pasuk. Three psukim, and then even Rabbi Yehuda agrees that you can't a Milamdin. But now the Gemara says something new. There's two words in the Torah that tell us only over here. When it comes to the Egla Harufa, it says Ha'arufa. It could have said Egla Arufa. What's the Hey Ha'arufa? And by the Trumas Hadeshin, it says instead of a sum, it says V'samai, the extra vav. So those are two miyuts that say only these two things you don't get to use afterwards. Now the Gemara goes back to that limud that we had before. And we take all three limudim and we put them together on one screen. So we see, we learned l'chaper, we learned lochem, and we learned the who. Remember who, the way it is, the end is like the beginning. The Gemara said the beginning is like that. The beginning is like the end, but not the end like the beginning. But why do you need three limudim? Says Gemara lemu'utim me'ila menoisar u'metuma. Here, noisar. The lochem comes to say that blood doesn't have the isser of noisar. The tuma comes to say, oh, I don't know who did this, but whoever did it, because I put it on the plan, I just did it one by one. Maybe Kobe, I don't know. The Tuma comes to say that the L'chaper comes to say that Dam does not have Tuma, no Issa Tuma, and the Who comes to say that Dam doesn't have Mila, Gevaldik, all three things. The fourth thing, Pigol, you don't need a puzzle. Why this not? That we already know. That only something that has a matter, that something comes after it, has a problem with Pigol. But Kmitza, Levayna, Dam, there's nothing after it. V'dam Gufei, matter. He himself is the matter. He doesn't have a matter to him. Therefore, there's no Pigol on blood. Omer Rabbi Yochanan, Shloisha Krisus B'Shlamim Lama. Why do I need three separate psukim when it comes to shlamim to tell me that a person who's tamei, who eats the shlamim, the carbon, he's chayiv karas? So what are the three psukim? Pasuk number one is a very general pasuk. It says v'tumasei alav v'nichrasa. Doesn't say what carbon, but psukim chaf and chav aleph, they say shlamim v'nichrasa, shlamim v'nichrasa. So we have three psukim that say the word karas. We're going to introduce a concept that a lot of us say every day. And somebody told me today, mamish today, that he never understood what it is. Never understood it. Not you, Mark.
Thanks for the
confidence. How's it possible that somebody told me today? I was on a plane. Somebody told me today. Here.
You met a guy in the terminal now.
Well, more than one guy. What does this mean? Kol davar shahoy b'klal. It's one of the shleishis from Yiddish Aturn addresses them. Kol davar shahoy b'klal v'yotzman klal. Lo yelamen ha'atzmi yotza yelamen klal kulo yotza. What in the world? It means like this. There's a generalization that said that if you eat any carbon when you are tameh, you're chayiv kares. So then why did the Torah specify a shlamim? So typically speaking, that's called a klal and a prat. So the prat explains the klal, but it says Tosfos that doesn't apply over here because it's two different places. These psukim are in different, let's see where they are. They're in like different prokim, different chumashim maybe. Here, this one is in Vayikra Perek Chav Beis. And these guys are Vayikra Perek Zayin. So they're different prokim. So you can't do klal, prat, klal from different prokim, different psukim. So basically what we say is that it comes it doesn't explain himself. Shlomo explains everything. That what? So the Gemara says what we do is achas leklal, for the general idea that all karbonas that you eat when you're tameh, when the person himself is tameh, he's chayiv kares. V'achas leprat, to say that there's certain special things that have to do with shlomim, that has to be kochim mizbeach, not the bedek habayis, let's say. And finally, the third thing is v'achas ledvarim she'enim nechalim, things like wood, levina, ketairis. These are the things also that if you eat them, betuma you're chayiv. Yes, the Gemara will Shimon the Omar dvarim she'ein nechalim in chayav malei mishum tuma. If you can't eat wood, there's no tuma. So what does the third pasuk come to tell us? It tells us that if you eat, let's say, par kohen gadol, par hilam daber, that goes inside the heichal, you eat it when you're tameh, you're chayiv kares. Why would I think you're not? Because he says there's no pigul for the par hilam daber, the par yom kippur, because it goes inside the heichal. So I would think there's also no tuma there. There is mchadish that there is.
Sponsors?
Oh, sponsors. Turning to the Daf, Adar Global. Yinishmas Reb Zelig ben Reb Avrom Meir Meisels. Yinishmas Reb Yudah Doi ben Reb Yisrael Zerkan Reb. Anonymous, as a schos Fatzlocha in Ruchnis and Gashmis. Judah, Elisheva, and Bakish Schlesinger. For Hatzlocha and Simcha for Yol Yudah ben Devora, Elisheva Miriam Bas Chana, and Baki Bas Elisheva Miriam. Numi Reb Shimon Mechayev Es Shadar Kelechol. Rashi over here on the Mishnah, if I can find it, he says, Chach Shomati Beis Midrash Rabbeinu Yaakov. V'lena Shekach Pirshu Reb Mishulem Bakilonis Goy B'Shas Misosoi. Numi is a lotion that he said this as he was dying. A number of stories of Gedolim. Some Sefer, they said you should say vidu. He didn't say that. Like, who was it that said, "Bring me a pen"? Told his daughter, "Get me a pen. I want to write a chiddush." And she went to bring a pen. When she came back, he was already nifter. Say chiddushim as he was being nifter. So it says the Gemara.
They say sometimes the malchamavis can't chaparain if somebody else is in the room that has certain schosim.
Really?
So they always trick them to leave. And that's what happened.
Huh. Says Mark that the Malach HaMavis doesn't want to sometimes take the neshama of somebody when somebody else is in the room, so he makes him leave. Idmar Reb Yochanan Rish Lakish, Reb Elazar, Reb Yossi, Reb Chanina. So we have four man the Omrim here. Rish Lakish and Reb Yochanan, Reb Elazar, Reb Yossi, Reb Chanina. We just don't know who says what. So that's all the Gemara is saying here. It's possible Reb Yochanan said this and Rish Lakish said that, or it's Rish Lakish said this and Reb Yochanan said that. Same thing with the Reb Elazar, Reb Yossi, Reb Chanina. Chad Mahai Zuzah, B'chad Mahai Zuzah. Zuzah is a lashon of Zuga, from this pier and that pier. Chad Ram Machlokes B'tumas Basar. The Machlokes between Reb Shimon and Chacham is when there's two types of tumas, right? When the meat is tamei, when the human being is tamei. So Chad Amar Machlokes B'tumas Basar. He says that the machlokes is by when the meat is tamei, yeah. But if when the person is tamei and he eats the kachim, everybody will agree there's no malchus. And I don't know if it's Rabbi Yochanan says it or maybe Rish Lakish says it. I don't know if it's Rabbi Zevachim Chanina, maybe it's Rabbi Lazar. Chacham say loika and Rabbi Shimon says ein loika, or everybody agrees ein loika, or Chacham say loika. Oh, that's later. Okay. There's no difference between whether the meat is tamei or the person is tamei. Machlokes in both. By taima, given the karina beiv abasar sheyiga b'chol tamei. Karina beiv tumasay olav. Tumasay olav is referring to the human being that he himself is tamei. Tumasay olav, it's on him. So there's a hekesh between. In other words, they're the same. The meat that's tamei and the person that's tamei is the same. Daf Yomi masnei hachi. So he says, Rav Kahana Masni, Chad Mezuzah, Chad Mezuzah, Aseifa. They're talking about Reb Shimon. Chad Oma Machalik Tumas Haguf, Abatumas Baso, they're Kol Loika. Take a look at this. Tumas Kodesh. Oh. Chad Oma Machalik Tumas Haguf. No Machalik Tumas Haguf. Abatumas Baso, they're Kol Loika. It's a little bit of the opposite. Before we said Tumas Haguf Ein Loika. According to everybody, Ein Loika. Now we're saying Tumas Basar Deviakol Loika. Oh. And the other one says no, this is Machlokes. Or that there is a Machlokes, my taima. Kim the Lakrina baby Tumasay Allah Benichasa. Like the reverse of what we said before. Since it's not since we can't say so we can't say they go together. It's true that they go together, but we go from the no. Before we're doing yes, now we're saying no. We don't have Abbas Shigah B'chol, so we also don't have. we don't have a Tumasi Olav, so we don't have Abbas Shigah B'chol. Since we don't have that he himself, the person who's Tomei gets Oynish, so we don't have by the Basar. Ask the Gemara, V'amar v'habasar. What about the word v'habasar? The rabbis eitzim l'vayna. So we learn from this that anything that's like it, that something that's not edible, they're not in the Isser. So now, since we already have a drasha, how can we learn from this drasha from Abbasar that Reb Shimon holds that things that are not royal achila, you're not chayiv for achilas kodesh for the meat. You already learn it. You're already learning from the Abbasar the Rabbi Seitzim Levina. You're already using up the Abbasar for a different drasha. So the Gemara says, L'psula ba'alma. It's just an asmachta, says Rashi. It's not saying that you're chayiv malchus on eating. It's just saying it's possible. Okay, so asmachta ba'alma, says Rashi. It's not the real drasha. We're not using up the drasha for that. Okay, so now we have a very beautiful Mishnah that a lot of people, they read this Mishnah as a zgula. Why? Because this Mishnah teaches us the deeper understandings of kavana. We have to have kavana when we do a mitzvah. And here we have unbelievable 6 kavanas necessary for the kohen when he performs the avodah of a carbon. L'shem shisha dvarim hazevach izbach. You have to think about 6 things. First of all, l'shem zevach. What type of carbon are you bringing? Are you bringing a chatos or are you bringing a shlamim? You have to have that kavanah. L'shem zevach, is it for Reuben or is it for Shimon? L'shem Hashem, you're doing it because Hashem said you should bring a carbon. L'shem Ishem, it's for the fire. It's going to go on the fire. L'shem reach, to bring an aroma, to bring a nice fragrance. l'shem nichoyach, to please Hashem. And v'chatas v'asham, when you bring a carbon for forgiveness, for kapara, then you have to say l'shem ched. You have to whatever it was. I spoke l'shon hara. Here's the carbon. L'chal Shabbos. Here's the carbon. L'shon hara I was joking about. I don't know if you're bringing chatas for that. Amar Rabbi Yossi, af mi shelo hoya b'liba l'shem echad mikol elu kosher. Says Rabbi Yossi, I know what you're thinking. It's too hard to think the perfect kavanas, 6 kavanas. Even if you don't think them, you're also yoytza. So why? Kosher, shutnai bezin, because bezin gets involved over here, and bezin says that this is the kavanas that you're using. Because at the end of the day, bezin is in charge of the kavanas, and whatever the bezin decide, that's what it will be. And the kohen doing the avodah, it'll work for him the way the bezin wants it to work. So now the Gemara brings a pasuk where Rav Yehuda learned 5 out of these 6 limudim. It says in the pasuk, all the way in the beginning of Vayikra, each word is a drasha. Oyla l'shem oyla. You have to have kavanah that's for an oyla la'pukei l'shem shlamim. Do not think that it's a shlamim. Deloy, that won't work. Ishei, meaning a fire, l'shem ishem. That you're going to have kavanah, you put on the fire. Interesting kavanah that you need to have. La'pukei kivava deloy. Don't think that you're making it, you're broiling it. Today, the word comes from here, kish kebab. Kebab in Eretz Yisrael it's called. And it's from this word of a piece of meat that's roasted. Reach, l'shem reach. You have to have in mind that you're going to give a fragrance to Takash Baruch. La'pukei eivarim shetzlam v'helan. And this comes to exclude limbs that you're ready roasted and you put it on the mizbeach. Dom Rabbi Dom Rav eivarim shetzlam v'helan ein bohen mishum reach. You're not yoy to the reach because you're ready. That initial, when you put the steak on the grill in the beginning, it goes psss, and all that smoke comes up. That's a one-time thing. Once you do that, it's over. That's what you need to put on the mizbeach. Nichoyach l'shem hanochas ruach, to give to please the Rebbeinu Shalom. There's the why and there's the who. The who is for Hashem. Why l'reach nichoyach, to give him nachas ruach, so to speak. Hashem, l'shem mishu omar v'hoy ha'olam. You're doing it because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for the one who said v'hoy ha'olam. Omar Rav Yudom Rav. Can't believe it. Can't believe it. We're at the end of 3 shiurim. Huh? We're doing a lot of things together, Mark. It's crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Klal Yisrael. Omar Rav Yudom Rav.
Flight's not coming in until 8:30. The plane.
My plane?
8:40.
Really? I might be here all night.
Get another one.
I dive in too hard.
Can I do another one?
What another one? I don't know anything. I can barely do this stuff on the plane. Says the Gemara, Rav Yudom Rav, chatas sheshchata l'shem oylo. Maybe I'll put a bed down here. Do some meetings. Rav Yudom Rav, chatas sheshchata l'shem oylo psula. L'shem chulin kshero. Says Rav, if you take a chatos, this is a chatos, somebody designated a chatos, and you say, this is not a chatos, this is an oila, that's the first mission in Zevachim, hustle. But what if this is a chiddush gadol? You say, this is not a chatos, this is a steak from my house, it is a good carbon. L'shem chulin kshero. Or Rabbi Lazar, my time of the Rav, where did he get it from? Because it says, v'lo yichalu es kodshe b'nei Yisrael. Kachim echalem kachim. When you're in the same category, one carbon could ruin another carbon. But chulin, regular steaks, cannot ruin a carbon. Does the guy get a kapara? We have to see. Kachim echalem kachim, chulin echalem kachim. Basav Rabbi Omer Rabbi Yossi, af mi shaloi hoya b'liba l'shem echad mikol elu kosher. Shutnai bezin. What does it say in the Mishnah? Rabbi Yossi says you don't have to have any kavanah because bezin has the kavanah for you. It's mashma because it was parav. Your brain wasn't thinking about anything. What if you had, how do you say in English? You have an opposing thought. instead of having zero thought, okay, listen, a guy davens Shemona Esrei. Let's say a guy chas v'shalom. Bad example, what I'm thinking now. A guy davens Shemona Esrei with zero thought. Zero. He's thinking. He has no idea what he's saying. Somebody told me today, he told me that when he davens Shemona Esrei, he doesn't understand. He literally doesn't understand. Even if he tried, he doesn't understand what he's saying. He just understands that the Chonin Ladam Das, and he says, Rebbe Shalom, how come I don't understand? Help me understand. That's what he told me. So a guy like that, he doesn't have any negative thought. He just doesn't have a thought. But I could understand if somebody has a bad thought in Shemona Esrei, he's thinking that he's doubting Shemona Esrei to Getchka. Of course it's going to ruin the Shemona Esrei because it's a negative. It's an opposing thought. So over here also, Rabbi Yossi says that it's okay when he has zero thought. It's a parav. Zero thought, okay, it doesn't ruin it. But if you have an opposing thought, you're thinking that it's chulin, of course it should ruin it. Why shouldn't it ruin it? Should be possible. I buy a great deal, but the deal is going to be a little different. Where Raisi is saying if there's zero other thought, then it's a perfect carbon. Not only that, you don't have to bring another carbon. You didn't have the right kavana. Bezin had kavana for you. It's a good carbon. Go home. Be okay. You're Yaitzi Shemona Esrei, so to speak. But you can be medayik that if you had an opposing thought, kosher ve'enei meratza. It's kosher, meaning you don't have to throw it out. Like if you had a thought when you're making a chatas, you had a thought that it's oily, you have to throw out the chatas. But over here, you don't have to throw it out. But you have to bring another one. You don't get the person that brought the carbon doesn't get a ritzui. Boisai. Have a wonderful day, Mark.
Yes.
Wow, it's unbelievable.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.